Good afternoon, and welcome to Everybody, the podcast which shares stories that highlight people in life that make the world an interesting place, which ultimately ties us all together in unique and wonderful ways. And who am I, you might ask? I would be the head wrap socialite, wife, mom, micro influencer in the fashion and etiquette world. But on this podcast, I will be introducing you to some people who I've had the opportunity to meet along my journey, who have helped enrich me in my life in beautiful ways, and who I hope will do the same in yours. Friendship is the hardest thing in the world to explain. It's not something you learn in school, but if you haven't learned the meaning of friendship, you really haven't learned anything. And that's Muhammad Ali. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with a unique individual who approaches life through a refreshing perspective. He is a wistful enjoyer of the absurdities of modern life, but who also finds humor and joy in the quirks and idiosyncrasies of our world. With a belief that every age is nostalgic, he appreciates the value of looking back on the past while also embracing the present and future. Today, we dive into the mind of this insightful and intriguing individual, my friend, Pat G. Thank you for being here on this podcast.
Oh my goodness, Trina. I think I'm done with that introduction. It's amazing. Can I have that carved in stone?
For you, my friend, anything.
I'm blushing. Thank you.
I mean, our love goes back just so far, and I'm always just amazed how these connections that were formed when we were children, even though we haven't spoken, of course, on Facebook, it's different, spoken in years, I feel like I could talk to you forever. Like, come over today, Pat, we're going to have a cup of coffee. Even though I don't drink coffee, I drink tea. But totally appreciate you being here with me today. So, Pat, can you tell the listeners a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, I am. I don't even know who I am. I'm still trying to figure that out. But, there's so many ways to define myself. So I am the youngest child of two parents married for close to 60 years. We were talking just a moment ago about how my mother passed recently, or a few years ago. And even then, through that experience, I was learning more about who I am and who my family was, because I realized for the first time really at that moment, concretely, that me and each of my siblings were raised in different families. I think that my oldest brother is 14 years older than me, and their life as a family was so much different than mine by the time I entered the picture. So I view my family as very different from my siblings. And it's, now we're caught up through the experience of time and age.
Right.
But I think that I am still redefining myself. I'm a Seattleite for 23 years now, and it's nowhere that I ever expected to live until pretty much it happened. But now here I am, and at least in the United States, I can't imagine living anywhere else. Though, as many people who know me are aware, I have a love affair with Scotland after visiting for the first time in December 2021. So, hopeful expat at some point.
So eventually, you could see yourself in Scotland easily.
I would love to live in Edinburgh.
Oh, wow.
The city scale speaks to me. I love walking without a real destination and just finding where I'm going to twist and turn and end up for a little bit before moving on. And Edinburgh has many, many locations where you can say, I'm going there off into the distance. This is where I want to be in a few hours. And then you find yourself with so many different stops along the way, and you might not get to where you're originally going because your path is deviated in some way. And I guess that's kind of how my life has been is, oh, I thought I was going to do this. Oh, no, I guess I'm turning this way. Here we go.
What was your favorite site, Edinburgh?
There's the Water of Leith that runs throughout. It's a small river that meanders through the city. And it's just a lovely walk through the neighborhoods. And so you start at Leith, which is on the 5th, the 4th, and the harbor. And then you go into the neighborhoods that are almost their own villages. So there's Stockbridge is a lovely town with boutique shops, nice pubs and coffee houses or tea houses. And and then you keep going and you find yourself in Dean Village, which is this incredible picturesque part of the town with beautiful stone buildings and narrow alleyways. When I was there in the fall, trees were just beautiful and golden. It was a postcard. And along the way, there are these very strange sculptures of nude men by I think his name's Gormley, the sculptor, and they just stand in the water. And
oh wow.
Yeah, the first time I encountered one, I had no idea it was there, and I was just photographing the river there underneath a bridge, and I saw this figure standing there. Like, well, what is that? There's somebody standing in the water. Why? Oh, it's a sculpture. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense, but nothing was calling attention to it, and there are a series of these spread miles apart, and you'll just walk, and there will be another one.
Oh wow. Yeah. That sounds so cool because I've never been. And now listening to you tell me about Edinburgh makes me want to go. I want to get a plane ticket tomorrow and go.
It's worth the journey. And my first time there, I went, I was supposed to go in autumn of 2020, but then due to COVID, that didn't happen. So it was delayed for a year, and I didn't really know that I was going back until a friend of mine who has family in England sent me a message and said, "Hey, have you seen the airfare to the United Kingdom?" I said, "No." And I looked and I went, "Oh, okay. I think I might have to go." And
good for you.
Yeah, I reached out to friends who lived there and asked them if they would be okay for me to visit. And they said, we're still afraid of COVID here. Yeah. You can come, but we're not going to do anything inside for a while. Oh, seeing you outside's fine. And so I went, and we had lots of dog walks, but it was not a typical time to go. It was the second half of December, so the darkest part of the year. Scotland's rather far north. It's surprisingly far north, so it was getting dark around 3:30 in the afternoon, and
oh wow,
the sun was coming up at 9:30, 9:45.
Oh my goodness!
People kept apologizing to me for the weather, and I kept telling them, the weather's fairly similar to Seattle at this time, and if I wanted to go somewhere sunny and warm, I would have gone south instead of north. I knew what I was doing, but it was lovely to visit. I think I might be a wanderer by nature. So
I like that. There's nothing wrong with that.
No. My daughter's grounded me somewhat, so she gives me a reason to come home from the meandering.
How old's your daughter?
She is 18 now, a senior in high school.
Wow, Pat. Wow.
Yeah, and I little summary that I wrote to you. I mentioned how I was learning from her more than I teach her, and I think that now more than ever. Although I think almost from the start, it was a very equal relationship as far as the knowledge gained from being around each other. But she's 18, a senior in high school, and I asked her, what do you think you're going to be doing next year? She's been accepted to college, and she said, I think I might want to take a gap year. I've been a student my whole life, and I think it would be nice not to be a student for once. I thought, whoa, that is so wise. Just take a moment and breathe. Just find out who you are
That's been our ongoing conversation here in my household too. It's open yourself up to the possibilities and figure out on this journey who you want to be. And that person can change with the day, with the week, with the year, and there's nothing wrong with it.
Right. And there's no rush to get to any particular point.
Exactly. Because what really is the destination, right?
Yeah.
I would like to ask you, how has being a parent changed your perspective on life and the world around you?
It slowed me down. Being a parent, it made me very aware of how I interact with the world.
Mm,
You know, one, I had this responsibility
hmm.
of having, knowing that I had to be around for this young person.
Yeah.
And I did have a talking to one night by her mother after
Hmm.
a night of being irresponsible. She said, "You can't do that anymore."
Hmm.
And it was a very important conversation to have.
Hmm.
But I really started to think more about the things that I said and
Mm,
the things that I did. But most importantly, it was those interactions with the world, with my feelings, because I would be talking to my daughter and
mm,
I'd say, for instance, if she would be having a temper tantrum and it was mid afternoon and we'd been running around and hadn't had a proper lunch. And I realized, you're acting this way because you're hungry.
yep.
You're acting this way because you're tired. And then in relating it to her, I wouldn't say, well, now, you're doing this because blah, 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 blah. I would say, oh, I haven't had anything to eat today
Uh,
since breakfast.
mhm,
I'm a little bit tired. And when I get this way, it makes me feel a little bit cranky. It
yeah.
makes me, a little bit in control of my emotions.
Mhm,
And so it was very sincere, the things that I would tell to her. And then or sometimes it was, you know, both sincere and kind of unconscious,
mhm.
my relaying information to her. And I'd hear myself and go, oh, you really need to take your own advice.
Right,
So
right.
it was amazing. I loved that, and I miss the part of parenting where your child is just sitting and listening to you.
Mhm. Uh-huh.
Now that she's 18, I really have to. Those moments are few and far between,
Mhm,
which is fine.
mhm.
Um, so a friend of mine once told me that being a parent is the one job where the end goal is to make your job obsolete.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. I know. It's sometimes I look back on my kids and how I've parented them. And the one thing I keep thinking to myself is, I hope when they were younger, I hope that I enjoyed every single moment, because it's hard to remember those moments now when they were sitting there just enthralled with everything that you had to say. It's like, I hope that I was able to teach them the life lessons that they needed to learn, and they were able to put those life lessons in their little backpacks.
Yeah.
They'll look back one day and say, Mom and Dad, you didn't always get it right, but we get that you got it to the best of your ability.
Yeah, absolutely. And from what I've seen, I'm going to give us both a pat on the back. I think we're both doing all
Girl, there you go, my
right.
friend. We're trying.
I've certainly learned. This is dumb because I say that I've learned more from my daughter in my statement to you than I teach now.
I was thinking though, but maybe it is the point that you said. You've learned to be more mature and wise because she is so much more mature and wise. So she's helping grow you in a different way that we're not able to put into words, but it's in our daily interactions and being of who we are.
Yeah.
That's my kid. They're teaching me something. All right, I can be better because of them.
Yeah. What one experience comes to mind from when she was really little,
Mhm.
maybe 4 years old. And we were out driving. We went to one of my brother's houses, and it was in some suburb of Pennsylvania that I wasn't very familiar with. And I took the wrong turn, and I just thought, well, I grew up around here. I can find our way home.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept seeing in the distance where I needed to get to, but it was one of those parts of Pennsylvania where you're just on the border of suburb and farmland. And I couldn't figure out how to get from the country to the other side to where the big lights of the suburbs were and the road that would take me back to my parents' house. And so we're driving around, and I'm getting frustrated. And I'm starting to panic and trying not to reveal that I'm panicked, but my mind is racing, my heart is racing, and I'm just frustrated that I can't get there. And she has to go to the bathroom. And I'm like, oh no, I am failing as a parent because, here I am, I know where I need to go. I'm out with my daughter, and I haven't taken care to make sure that before we left, she went to the bathroom so there would be time. And this little voice came from the back of the car. And I was certainly grumbling at this point. So she knew that something was wrong with Dad. He was a little bit more excited than usual. And she said, hey, Dad, will you hold my hand? And I was like, oh, God, I'm driving. I'm lost. And then my brain was like, just listen to your kid. Just listen to your kid. She's asking you to do something very simple. And I reached back, and I could still feel my body tense from this humbling experience of being lost somewhere where I felt like I should. And I reached back, and the second that I touched her hand, I just felt this calm go through my body.
Aww.
And I thought, whoa, that was magical. Like whatever she just did was magical. And then I thought, oh, I think we just had to talk about this. And I had explained to her that we all react to frustration. We all react to feeling overwhelmed, anxious in different ways. And not only do we react differently to it, but there are different ways for us to come down and step back from the ledge. And I mentioned to her, because I think we were trying to play through what it is to help her calm down when she's upset. And I said, hey, Maggie, did you ask to hold my hand for me or for you? And she said, oh, for you, Dad. Wow. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. That theme of, reflection of being a parent and listening to yourself. You get to hear yourself in your child. And that was, really, a very clear example of this, where she had listened to me and allowed me to hear my own voice. And, just instantly I was just like, okay, we're going to be okay. And I was like, oh, well, I might not know how to get out of this mess.
Right.
But I know how to go backwards to my brother's house from here. And I don't need to fight forward. I can retreat. You can go to the bathroom, and we can say, oh, here we are. We don't need to try to find a new way home. We just go the easy way that we know. Or we can ask, once we're there. More recently, after my first trip from Scotland, I was just enamored. And I mentioned to her, like, I think at some point I might want to move there. And I felt a little bit awkward telling my child, if I had my way, I'm going to leave the country. And I don't know what that means for you and me. I'm not doing it right away. And she said to me, Dad, if you need to do this is something that you really want to do. You should not do it because of me. I would feel badly if I got in the way of you living your dream and being happy. And I was like, whoa, I'm sorry. Wow. 16, 17-year-old. You're not allowed to talk to me that way. Stop pushing me out of the house.
Exactly. Who's a parent here?
But thank you. We're years away, but
Mm.
thanks for giving me that freedom and, allowing me to dream and start to really look at like, what does it take to really do this?
Mm.
She's just the perfect daughter for me. Always has been. We certainly have an influence on who our children are,
Yeah.
but she has influenced me
Mm.
as much or more.
Yeah.
And, I just couldn't imagine, having somebody who guided me spiritually as much as she has. It's been just a joy from the start and,
Mm.
just always brought out the best of me.
To me, like when you say that, just reminds me of what true, unfiltered love looks like,
Oh, yeah.
and it's just beautiful. I believe we get a chance to experience, what that true love is through our children.
It really has a way of cutting out the distractions. Like now, we haven't heard each other's voices
Yeah.
in over 30 years.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy. We're both meandering in our tellings. It's very easy.
You're
And
right.
and I thought, time's funny. I will be back.
Yeah.
I will be back. I don't know when I'll be back, but I will be back, and my life will be different and the same when I'm back, and her life will be different and the same when I'm back.
Yeah.
And all my other friends there, things will happen, and
Yeah.
we'll be able to pick up and reminisce and fill each other in on what we missed, and
Yeah.
just sit and laugh and look at castles and
Exactly. And meander through the different boroughs and villages and
yeah,
neighborhoods, and it'll be as if time never stopped.
yeah, yeah,
I think that's the beauty of life
yeah.
and evolution of who we are meant to be. Do you ever, and you brought up nostalgia, do you ever feel nostalgic about the past?
All the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
about so many things. I was just sharing with a friend and coworker of mine the other day. We were talking about streaming media and how people interact with content now, whether it's TV
Mhm.
shows or
Yeah.
music or whatever. And we were talking about how much slower it was, and
Mm.
fascinating to know that you and your friends would get together on Thursday night at 9 o'clock to
Mhm.
watch Melrose Place or whatever it was, because that's when it was on.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yep.
I told him about this song by this Australian indie band from the 90s. The band's called Smudge, and they have a song called The Outdoor Life.
Mm.
And it's a confession by the narrator to this woman that he's trying to date. And he's confessing that he lied about being the outdoor type. And he just goes through all of these things that
Right.
he is not. And one of them is can't go on that weekend rock climbing retreat. What if there's something on TV that will never be seen again,
Mm.
shown again? And I'm like, oh, yeah, like when this song came out, that was a thing. I mean, we had VCRs, but you
Yeah.
know, you only had so many hours to put on a VCR, and
Oh, I
you know,
know.
and so I'm nostalgic for Thursday nights with friends,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
uh, not having everything in my pocket. Oh, what do I want to do now? Just do this. It's here.
Exactly. Right. It's like, what do I want to eat? What do I want to buy? Okay, let me press a button versus the longing of the wait.
Yeah,
I was thinking earlier about how wonderful it is for social media. It's a great tool.
it's why we're talking.
It's why we're talking. This is fantastic. Who would have known 50 years ago that we would be sitting here talking to each other through a device that you don't even have to hold in your hand, but it somehow magically transports us into each other's, office spaces. Like, what?
I don't know what the future holds in store, because those commercials from when we were in college that AT&T used to run,
Mm.
where they'd say, "Did you ever imagine that you would be talking on a phone held in your pocket?
Oh,
Well, you will, and
yeah.
AT&T will be the company that brings it to you." They had a whole series of those commercials, and they all came true.
We had no idea. idea.
Yeah.
When we were in college, we were still talking on payphones.
Yeah.
Getting those coins out, putting those little coins in, and then you would have like the roommates or whoever down the hallway waiting, and 10, 15 minutes, and then the operator would come on and say, "You have 1 minute left."
Right. Oh my God, 1 minute. I had I had a roommate in college who was a computer science major. And so this would have been probably autumn of 1994.
Okay.
And he came home one day, and I have a tape recording of this on cassette. So, that dates it.
Pat's taking it all the way back.
And he comes busting through the door, and he's so excited about this thing that he learned about in his computer science class that day. Oh my God. They can now burn data onto a compact disc. 650 megabytes. Do you know how much data that is? That's so much data.
That's fantastic.
It's you could put a whole record on this. You could put so many books on it. And now we take a couple photographs, and we take a photograph on our phone, and it wouldn't fit on a compact disc because the resolution's too high.
Isn't that something? It blows your mind, though.
We live at this really strange turning point of analog to truly digital, and everything happens so fast.
Yeah.
We went from green screen internet one day, and then we left campus in the spring, and we came back, and all of a sudden the internet had photographs. and then a little bit later it's streaming, and our children don't know this, that oh no, you actually had to wait. Yes, images came on a television. They were projected from film onto a screen. This is how you interacted with things.
I know. I said, and our kids they never had the opportunity to know about microfiche and microfilm. Like, what?
For them.
They're like, you went where and did what with what?
Yeah, there'll be. Yeah, I just don't know. I'm terrible. I'm terrible at playing the imagine into the future game. I just can't. I can't, and my brain doesn't allow me to try. So when friends try to play the imagine this game, I'm like, I'm sorry. That's a game that my brain just won't let me do.
I was just thinking about, there's a car that's going to be coming out, and I think there was like a prototype of it, where you can press a button on the inside of the car, and the car can change colors depending on.
I would either have one color or all the colors. I don't know if I would be like, okay, I'm done with this. I don't need all the colors, or I would change it every 5 minutes. It's like me and the cat photos. Now this has become an obsession. I need to every day take a photograph of me and my cat looking off in the same direction.
That's fantastic.
Part of the absurdity is like, oh, I can do this.
Yeah.
My cat's going to play along.
Yes.
And just for context, during the pandemic and spending a lot of time at home, I would go out with my morning cup of coffee, sit on the steps in front of my house. My cat would come out with me, and we would just look at everything happening in the neighborhood. And he would just sit down next to me, and he would hear something off in the distance and look, and I would go look in the distance. And one day I was like, oh, I'm going to take a photograph of us doing this. It'll be funny.
Right.
And then next thing you know, there are tens, if not 100 or so photographs of me and Paul the cat looking in the distance, and it became the morning looks, and I just couldn't stop. So that would be me with the car. Like, oh, okay, what's the morning color?
Exactly.
No, we're not doing this.
But with the car, you would have to have your fluffy cat Paul in the picture too.
Oh, if I could put his image on it, that would be completely different. If I could brand it with his image, absolutely. I was a little bit obsessed with his image before the pandemic, because I had a knit hat made with his image embroidered on it. And then when the pandemic came, I had masks made with him on it. So
I have to ask you, does Paul have his own Instagram?
I'm not in charge of his Instagram. there is a Cat the Paw Instagram because apparently somebody else has the Paw the Cat Instagram. And my daughter set it up. There's not much content there, but it exists. I should take it over and start putting some of my old images on there.
Yes, you have to do that for the listeners. I'm telling you, first of all, his cat is so beautiful. It's so fluffy. And okay, so Pat, you have to put photos on this Instagram account because people will love to see pictures of Paul the fluffy cat.
Oh yeah, it's
a whole thing.
It really is. He's really an incredible companion for those ridiculous photographs.
The best is when you put the googly eyes on him. I get a kick out of it.
Well, and then there was one morning, I think something changed in my routine in the morning, and I posted something stupid on Facebook about it, and I said like everything seems weird today, and I made some comment that everything's so weird that even Paul the cat seems two-dimensional today. And then I just knew I'm going to have to make a two-dimensional Paul the cat to post for today's morning looks. And then I just made this really terrible, quick, two-dimensional block cat that is so inelegant. And I was ready to, I think I might have taken a picture of me with this. And then I was like, oh, this joke isn't going far enough. Now I need a two-dimensional cardboard image of me. And so then it became two-dimensional me, two-dimensional Paul the cat, sitting on the stoop, drinking our coffee. And now I bring two-dimensional Paul the cat with me when I travel.
That is fantastic. A cardboard cat when you travel. Does it fold up and fit in your suitcase?
Oh yeah, he folds suitcase size. Yeah, he lost his tail. I don't know if I still have the tail, but the tail came off. It was really drawn up to be a one-off, and then it just kept happening. And then I started traveling with him, and I may have left his tail somewhere in the Highlands of Scotland. There's fluffy.
Oh my god! Oh my gosh, Pat! Oh my gosh! I can't. My cheeks are hurting. Okay, so I am amazed, and I love when you do your messy doodling art. What and how did you get into messy doodling art, and why do you incorporate that into your daily life?
So it started kind of at one point early in my Seattle life. I was unemployed for a good long period of time. It was 2002, 2003, and George W. Bush kept extending unemployment. And I was unemployed for 15 months or so. And during that time, I didn't have a lot of money. And so I would go to coffee shops and I would sit and I would draw. And at that time, it was largely self-portraits, or I would take postcard-sized stencils and of flowers or hockey players or just whatever. And I would draw different images inside each of the panels of the stencil. Sometimes they related and told a story. Sometimes they were just completely different images. So that's when I really started drawing. And then I started to carry a small notepad and pens with me wherever I went, just so if I had something a thought to write down or wanted to draw a quick sketch, I would draw that. And I guess I had started previously. I used to draw sumo wrestlers. This woman that I had met was obsessed with sumo wrestlers, and I would draw her sumo wrestlers as gifts. Thought that would make her love me, and it didn't. But I just was like, oh, I just love drawing sumo wrestlers. The contrast between just a straight line of very minimalist eye, and I would draw noses as two lines in a right angle, and then the curves of the hair and the curves of the body, and it was just so much fun to draw them. So that's how I started. One day, a friend of mine said, "Why don't any of your people ever have eyes? And it's like, they have eyes. What are you talking about? And they're like, no, they have eyebrows. And it's like, no, that's the eye. Because it would, the face would literally be just a circle face, and then two horizontal lines for eyes, and then a right angle, two lines at a right angle for a nose, and then a line for a mouth. And like, oh no. And so it was kind of a challenge. Like, you've been stuck doing this for a long time. Get along, move on to your next phase, draw some eyes. I was like, oh, okay. So I started to draw eyes. And then after that, the top knot dissolved from the top of the head of the sumo. And just like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm just drawing people now.
Right.
So then unemployment, drawing self-portraits and whatnot. So this one night, I love going to see live music. It's just one of my passions, is hearing live music, just seeing people perform. It's magic to me. I play a little bit of guitar poorly, and what somebody can do playing a musical instrument and make these song structures, these soundscapes, and tell a story. I don't understand how it's done. My daughter does it magically, and I'm just in awe of her. So I would go out to see live music, and I had made a conscious decision that I was going to start seeing more small shows, more local shows, rather than going to see the big bands that were touring. Every once in a while, I would just, I like going out. I like music. I should do this more often. I can't go out. Oh, wait. There are free shows or shows for $5 all the time. They're just not famous people. They're your neighbors. So I was going to a show one night, and my girlfriend was going to meet me there. And she was late. And I had the habit of drinking quite a bit when I would go to see shows. And so I would have at least one drink per act, and usually a beer in between. And so it became a night of a lot of drinks rather quickly. And so I had my first beer waiting for my girlfriend. And I thought, she got a message that she was going to be late. And I don't know if I had a second one, or I was thinking about having a second one. Maybe I was thinking about having a third one. I don't know. And I was like, oh, she's still not here. Another message, I'm going to be late. It's like, I can't do this. Like, I have to break this cycle of, this is what I do in this environment. And I thought, oh, I have my notepad. I have a pen. I can draw the band. I'm going to draw right now. And I drew the band. It wasn't a particularly good drawing. But I thought, it's good enough. I wonder, can I trade this for something? So when the band was done, I went up to their merchandise table and I said, hey, I drew this picture of you while you're playing. Oh my goodness, that's amazing. Wow, I've never been drawn before. Like, oh yeah. I was wondering, could we make a trade? And so I traded it for a CD, and I was like, oh, well, this is kind of interesting. I can come here. I can go to a show. I can keep my hands busy and, not be able to hold a drink for the duration of a set. Sometimes I can trade it for music. That's pretty cool, because that's, something for me to remember the night by, and not having to spend money for it's pretty great. And so it just became the new part of my going out to see a show was, I go and I draw. Now it's kind of like, and I've done hundreds of them. I've drawn the history of small Seattle bands, mostly North Seattle. I don't get out to the South End enough, and I should. There are whole new artists out there for me to draw that I've never drawn before. That it's gotten to the point where I start to think before going out, oh, do I really feel like drawing tonight? and it's become such a part of it that I feel like I can't go and not draw. So, I've gone a couple of times and not drawn recently. Maybe. I know that I've gone and thought I wasn't going to draw. I was like, nah, I'm drawing. This,
Right.
this is what I do. And this is fun.
This is what you do.
Yeah. And for a while I was thinking there's scratchy, you know, they're figurative, but abstract, you know, it's a lot of contour drawing where I'm just not lifting the pen off of the postcard that I'm drawing on. So it's just the ink is just dragging along and creating these crazy lines that sometimes shouldn't make sense, and then the form appears.
Yeah.
And for a while, I was thinking that you know, I wish these were cleaner. I wish I was better at drawing. I wish it was more realistic. And then this other guy in Seattle started to get a little bit of publicity as being a guy who draws one song, one drawing, or something like that. And a friend of mine used one of his drawings of him as a promotional flyer, and I was like, oh, I hate you. I hate you for using him and not me. He's used me before, but I was like, you know, this guy's better at publicizing himself. Like, he had a news story done about him. Like, how do you do that? Like, I'm not the self-promoting type. I want the news story, but I don't want to do any work doing it. So I was like, I'm done. I'm retiring you. You know, that other guy's doing my thing now.
Right.
And then I was like, no, you know, his are pretty clean. Like, they're good. You know, they're good, but you know, yours are messy. Yours are filthy and messy, and you know, just nobody draws like you. And so, you know, I got to embrace and really unleash the sketchiness of my sketches. And I'm my own fan. I've gone to a friend's practice space and saw a picture hanging on the wall, and I sat looking at it going, man, I really love that. You know, for more seconds than I should have before I realized it was one of mine. Like, I drew that. Good thing I like it. I did that.
Well, I will tell you, along with the Instagram profile that I need to see of Paul the Fluffy Cat, I think that what you should do is do an Instagram also of your messy doodling.
There happens to be a website of the drawings. It's not a complete collection of them, but if you were to go to www.tomorrowsbeencancelled.com, you will find a collection of some of them there.
Oh, that's so cool. That's cool. Okay, so for you listeners out there, Pat, if you could say it one more time of where they can go to find the messy doodling. I love it. I love that name. I'm telling you, that would make the best Instagram account. We should like Google it, but we should ID it and see if that exists, because that would be perfect. Messy doodling.
And get it registered before this goes live.
Before it goes live. Somebody's going to be like, oh, that's a good one.
People are flocking to it. Like, I need to grab it. I'll sell it to them.
Exactly. You have to get that registered before we even go to press. You got 6 days.
The URL is for messy doodlings is www.tomorrowsbeencancelled, and it's canceled with one L, which I didn't realize, but it's the UK spelling cancelled. I think in the US we allow both.
Yes, just like color. Color. So since we were talking about art, I also noticed that on your Facebook posts, and what I love to see, and I think that's pretty cool, is your coffee art. I love that. I'm like, how did I never know this before? And I tried to Google it, and I couldn't find that exists. Is it a thing? Or did you make it a thing?
Well, I called it art. But there are cultures. One of them is Turkish culture that will do readings of one's future in the coffee grounds. And so, you know, part of it is drinking a coffee that is thick enough to have grounds left at the bottom of it. Yeah. So just one day, a few months ago, I was drinking a coffee, and I just looked down at the bottom of my cup, and there was just beautiful pattern of fine silt from the grounds down there. And I thought, well, it's too cold and wet to go outside to take a picture of me and Paul the cat. I guess I'll do a picture of my coffee, and that will be my art of the day. And so, yeah, it was just a compulsion to find art somewhere around me and share this image that I thought was interesting. I've been really enjoying sharing those, and then it's just an abstract image of sediment at the bottom of a coffee mug, and seeing what other people view in it. And some of them have been just tremendous landscapes in my mind. You can see pine trees and a lake forming, and it's just, wow, okay, I just took my last sip, put this down, and looked down and took a picture.
That's another thing that I think is cool too. So as you were talking, I thought about another IG for you.
Ooh.
And that would be cool. And then if you're not on TikTok already, you should totally be on TikTok. And then I'm telling you, that would take off. And if you don't take that, Pat, I'm taking it. I give you a year on that one.
Okay. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna redact the audio from this. So what will be published will be what you really need to do is you need to register. And it's totally gonna go, and people are going to flock to.
I will totally, redact those parts, just to take a pen and just scratch it out. But I'm telling you, people would eat that up, Pat.
Or drink it up.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Drink it up. Okay, I'm giving you 6 months now. The head wrap socialite does. Like, what? I never knew you were into that. I didn't even know you drank coffee. I thought you only drink tea. Well, darling, my taste has changed. Pat, what makes you happy?
Everything.
That's good.
Being around other people makes me happy. I love the social aspect of social media. It's an easy way to connect with people that I really care about and enjoy seeing their world, sharing mine. I've done a good job of curating it, so I see what I want to see. I share with whom I want to share. So that's great. I recently changed jobs to a larger department within the same university, and one of the drawing points to this was I knew that I was going to engage with more people on a regular basis and hear their stories, be able to share mine, and just see people. I love just sitting down and listening to somebody tell their story. For me, there's no greater joy than spending time with another person. There's a thought there, but I think it's drifted elsewhere. Oh yes, I remember. Back in my days of unemployment, I had this really strange idea of what I should be doing with my time. And at one point I thought I was just going to watch a bunch of movies, and that was, this is going to be great. I get to sit and do nothing but watch movies. Right. And so I put on hold a bunch of movies. Probably 100 movies was the maximum that you could get from the Seattle Library. So I put on hold 100 movies, and I thought that they would come to me little by little, and I would just watch them as they came. They all came within a week. And so I had 100 movies, and I thought, well, that's fine. I'll watch 3 a day. Because that'll be my full-time job. I'm just going to watch movies.
Okay.
I did it for 3 days, and I was like, this is awful. This is not how I want to spend my time. I don't want to watch movies by myself. I don't want to watch 15 movies in a week. I started to forget, they all started to run together. And I was like, what have I watched?
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm really miserable. What is going on? It's like, oh my God, I'm not interacting with anyone. And so I set a new set of rules for myself for my unemployed life. And one of the foundational rules was I needed to be out of the house and have said something to another human being no later than 10 in the morning.
Mm,
And I was religious about that.
right.
You know, okay, you, you just want to be lazy. No, you have to go see someone. And it's just, I'm going to go have coffee. Ordering a coffee is talking to
Mhm.
someone, but then it's, a relationship developed with the baristas, and
Mhm.
um, they became a very important part of my life.
Mm,
And they made me happy.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. And just the evidence of people, during COVID, I would hear somebody playing the saxophone in the neighborhood.
mm,
They'd go out in their backyard and they'd play the saxophone. Sometimes it's confusing because I thought I would hear two, kind of, and the aptitude would come and go from them. And then I realized it was somebody who was teaching lessons.
ah,
And I was like, oh, that makes sense. But I just loved that evidence in the air of another human being out there.
yeah.
So, if I hear my daughter playing her ukulele across the house, and I
Mhm.
just get filled with joy. I'm
Oh,
like, oh yeah, she's there. She's doing stuff. She's
that's
living. She's living.
yeah. Oh, that's awesome. See, that just makes my heart smile. That really does. Just listening to you talk about the things that you're, passionate about, the things that make you happy, that really just brings me joy. Thank you for taking this time out to talk to a dear old friend. And thank you for the gift of friendship as well. Was thinking about how once the interview was done, like how I wanted to end the interview. And it's funny how you had said in the very beginning that time is funny. And I thought true friendships are the ones that stand the test of time. You weather life storms together or apart. And with each year, they become blossoming, even if you don't know it.
Mm.
They're the ones that remind us that no matter where we go or how much we change, there are some bonds that will never, ever fade. So cherish these friendships, for they are the ones that make life's journey all the more beautiful. I am glad that we have reconnected, and I am looking forward to seeing the different things that you do along this journey and the different wanderings that you will take. I know through it all, we'll be friends forever.
Yeah, let's grow old together.
Let's
Let me
do
let me say something. You're welcome. You offered me a lot of gratitude and thanks, and I'm trying not to just say thank you when someone says thank you. I'm trying to acknowledge, and so you're welcome.
it.
And Trina, thank you so much. I was so nervous. I was so nervous. I was
No.
so nervous when you asked me. I was honored. I was excited, but I was so nervous because we hadn't talked in 30 years. But it has been so easy,
Mhm.
and you're wonderful, and I reflect back everything that you said. I'm so grateful that we reconnected, and I love the color that you bring to my world with
Mm.
your fashion photos. They're amazing, and I like it when I'm like, oh, those are the shoes that I like. Those blue ones are the ones that I like. And for your smile and your dimples.
Aw, thanks, Pat. I tend to get very like emotional and full because you know me. That part has never changed. Um, I will say that I have some of the most eclectic, coolest, unique friends in this world. I'm so glad that God placed me where I was so that I could encounter you. From sitting in Mrs. B's class. I can't say it enough, Pat. I am so, so grateful for you, my friend.
Thank you. And I am so grateful for you, and I appreciate this time. My face hurts from smiling.